Good afternoon and welcome back to the expansion of consciousness. I'm your host, Jason Medlock. And again, I want to say welcome back to expansion of consciousness. You just saw us on last Thursday. We had a marvelous guest, but tonight we're going to be blessed with a treat. And I won't reveal it just yet, but we're going to talk about this beautiful young lady, this beautiful soul in one moment. But just want to enlighten people on why we're doing this show and what makes this show different. We're simply providing content, providing top level speakers, authors, healers, hypnotists, spiritual coaches, all type of coaches in different genres to impart a message just for you. Impart the message of understanding how to move from one place to another in your mind, which translates to your life, translates to your personal endeavors, business, any type of performance that you want to achieve. You can by listening to some of the content of some of the world's best coaches, authors, and healers. But now, without any further ado, it's Amanda Kate, author of Divine Messy Human, a spiritual guide to prioritizing internal truth over external influence. Kinesiology mentor, archetypal life coach, mother, and more. A recovering people pleaser and self-sabotager. Walks the path of straddling the divine and messy daily. Always growing, developing, and learning new ways of beginning to hopefully one day leave the earth better than she found it. And this is Miss Amanda Kate. Amanda also helps people to regain their vitality, smashing through their internal glass ceiling and limitations to find new levels of health, vitality, and abundance. She also works with business owners to increase their vibration and attract greater wealth and prosperity. Amanda lives in Melbourne, Australia. And that was the part I was going to be surprised. She's in Melbourne, Australia with her twin flame, her children, his children, and a dog named Zeus. Now, is that a perfect life or what? But now we're going to bring on Miss Amanda Kate. Hello there, Amanda. How you doing?
I'm really, really well. Thank you. I'm just so honored to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
No problem. I messed up a little bit on your bio, but you're
Oh,
gonna have
it's
to,
all right.
come back and do your magic on explaining some things. But I'm glad to have you here. It's always happy to speak with other energy healers, medicine, physical health, attacking emotional issues. And then we know that you're a professional coach as well. I want to start off and I had a client of mine who I'm working with right now. She always says, I love it when you ask people, how did you start? Tell us about your beginnings and what made you or what influenced you to walk on this path.
I always say that we don't necessarily find the path finds us. And that certainly was the case with me. I was in a place where I was quite unwell, and Western doctors couldn't find anything wrong with me. They were like, you're the healthiest sick person we know. Like, they were sending me for tests, but it was just not getting any answers. And there were just a few little alarm bells ringing for me that I shouldn't have to live my life this way. And it was physical, emotional, psychological, menstrual, like all of these different areas of my health were just not quite right. And their answer was to keep trying to put me on antidepressants. And I'm going, but I'm not depressed. Like, this isn't the issue. There's something bigger going on. And I ended up ringing to go and see this psychologist who worked in a mindfulness way. And when I gave a brief, let's call it the socially acceptable version of why I was looking for psychological help, the receptionist said, it sounds like you're under quite a bit of stress. Because we can't get you in for so long for the a psychologist, would you consider kinesiology? And I was going, what? Like, I don't know what that is. But I was desperate and I went, okay, fine, I'll try it. And that first session just changed my life. I feel like I've learned how to human properly in the last sort of 7 or 8 years of this really deep inner work that I've been doing, and learning that things that were my normal are actually abusive relationships. And it's been mind-boggling. I'm learning new things every day. I've literally just gotten back from a whole weekend of learning what my problem pattern is, because both our genius flow and our problem are created through the same structure within us. So I've just had 3 days of diving into all of my shadows and my darkness. And all of that stuff all put together has just given me this insight into myself, my past, and my relationships that has allowed me to completely change my life. So yes, trauma led me to this, but it's just, I'm so grateful for all of that, because without it, I just wouldn't have found this life.
So you found kinesiology through trauma. I mean, that's
Yeah.
originally what happened. And so listen, for the audience, what is kinesiology? And I know that you work in energy healing and vibrational medicine, but combine those three and let's talk about it.
So kinesiology, the basis of it is that we're using Western science with
Mhm.
Eastern wisdom. So we combine the
Mm,
two. We know that everything is energy and vibration. So again, a lot of that
mm,
quantum physics stuff comes into it, where we know that everything is a vibrational frequency. And we work with every aspect of the human being, which is why we call it a balance. So if you imagine yourself as an equilateral triangle, and on one side you've got physical and structural, on another side you've got chemical and nutritional, and on the other side you've got mental, emotional, and physical. If one aspect of that is out, then the triangle kind of collapses. And even if it doesn't collapse, it's certainly not going to be an equilateral triangle anymore if we're putting no energy into one area and all of our energy into another, for example. And so what kinesiology looks to do is look at what are the stresses within the body that are stopping it from being in vibrant health, which is where our
mhm.
body wants to be and where our body knows to take us. But because we're not used to listening to our body and tuning into what's going on underneath, those messages don't always come through.
And typically they come through as disease and the messages that our body sends us. You
Yeah.
know, I learned that in quantum healing hypnosis, and I practice this type of hypnosis. And those messages, they'll come in subtly, and it'll be an aching ankle or knee. Then all of a sudden, it's something major like a car wreck, and we think that, oh, we just had a wreck, but no, that was a message that you were
Yeah.
receiving. You know, the spiritual realm that, hey, wake up, you're not on the right
Yeah.
path.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I had a lot of signs much, much earlier on than I completely kind of collapsed and got really unwell.
Wow.
Constantly. I saw the signs, but because I didn't trust myself, I I would only see in hindsight what I'd missed. So I never acted on my intuition because I didn't have that trust for it. Whereas now
Mm.
that I really trust my intuition, I truly listen to it. I don't just hear it anymore. I listen to it. I
Yes.
trust
So,
it
Amanda, how about,
and I act on it. Yeah.
okay, so Amanda, okay, you said now you not only trust it, you listen to it. How did you get there? Because I have a similar feeling, and it took me a while to get there, but I want to ask you how you got there to where you could know that, okay, this is my intuition. It's not my conscious mind or my ego. I know this is my intuition.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. It's a hell of a lot of work. Let's face it. There was a lot of there was a lot of reframing of trauma patterns and healing through somatic therapies, kinesiology,
Yes.
acupuncture, hypnosis, like you name it, I've tried it. And if you name something I haven't tried, I will go and try it to see what it offers. Um, but everything that I've done on that healing journey has taught me something about myself at a deeper level. Now,
Mm,
in clearing through the reasons that I'm programmed the way that I am, to have accepted the trauma that I accepted into my life, because at some point I chose all of that. And I remember this day I was driving, I can still see exactly where my car was in my mind. I was driving down this busy highway on my way to work, and I almost had a crash because I went, oh my God, I was always free to leave my marriage. I always knew where the door was. I chose to stay.
You stayed
And
in
there
the church
was,
long.
oh my God, there was so
Yeah.
much power in that, because all of a sudden I couldn't be angry and upset with, all those external influences that I was trying to blame for me staying. It was all on me. And as I started to recognize all of that, there was just this release and this ease. And so I think there's been a lot of moments similar to that, where I've had these literally earth-shaking realizations that have completely and utterly changed me, I believe, at a cellular level.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
When we talk about kinesiology, and we're going to move off of it, but
Yeah.
energy healing, vibrational medicine, and vibrating, your body wants you to vibrate at a certain rate to heal and to stay
Mm.
healthy. But also, some of us practice vibrating even higher than that.
Yeah.
And I use simple techniques like envisioning my body being pure white light, um, and that light emanating throughout my house and throughout the neighborhood, or something more simple, just thinking about love
Mm.
just all day long, subconsciously in my heart, and it helps me vibrate to another level. Um, when you think about emotions, okay, and we know that emotions are suppressed, or some of them
Yep.
are not, and you have learned or have been working towards unlocking emotions. Some people are they are very, very in touch with their emotions. The men are mostly not in touch because the way we grew up, or the way
Yeah.
we were, in our construct, way we
Mm.
were raised.
Yeah.
So, how does the knowledge of emotions impact physical health? Knowing that we can change paradigm by the way we think.
Oh, I think you've got one of the major keys of healing there, because we have all been taught a narrowly acceptable band of behavior that people will allow us to be within, whether it be parents or society or any of that. Now,
Yes.
as a woman, I am taught to, in so many ways, fear men. Don't walk alone at night. Don't walk when it's dark. Uh, if you see someone acting dodgy, cross the street, because we're afraid of that violation, not just of our emotional bodies, but our physical bodies. And from a very young age, this is drilled into us. Now, again, men, can't be too angry, because that's seen as toxic masculinity now. But anger is such a useful emotion. And I think this is part of it, is recognizing that there are no negative, bad emotions. What is a problem is when we are feeling those emotions and we are acting unresourcefully through them. So anger is there to tell us when our boundaries have been violated, when we're afraid, when we're feeling hurt, because we would rather feel angry and feel like we're doing something than to feel hurt, because hurt hurts. And so we're often taught to use other emotions to not feel the ones that we're actually feeling. But if you think
Yes.
about, the emotion is energy in motion. It's supposed to
Mhm.
keep moving. Whereas
Mhm.
what happens when we suppress the emotion, and grief is another one that we massively suppress throughout the world, we are not taught to express it. We are not taught to feel it. We are not taught to honor it as a massive part of our growth and love relationship in this world. And so all of these big emotions we're shoving down. Now, there's only so much we can shove down Before that pressure cooker or that volcano is full. And then it comes out in all sorts of unresourceful ways. And I put my hand up. Yep. Yes, I've
And
been
we
there.
just talked about the messages that the body gives you, but then
Yeah.
also, like you're about to talk about now,
Yeah.
emotions can really impact your health
Oh,
majorly.
yeah. Well, we were talking this weekend, just gone, about the fact that anger turned inwards is depression.
And cancer.
And you go, oh my God. You often
Yes.
think of depression being more in the grief or something like that emotional state, but it's anger turned inwards.
Hmm.
And anger is there to hide. Like I say, when have your boundaries been violated? What are you afraid of? Are you hurt? Are you feeling unloved or disrespected, or those big emotions that we don't want to feel? And if you think about, we're shoving all of these emotions down into different parts of our body and trying to hold them stuck because we don't like the way it feels, then we're separating parts of ourselves off and saying, you can't show your face here because you're not welcome. And we've got all of these bits of our personality that we're trying to lock in, in parts of our subconscious. So, no, you don't come out. You don't get to come out and play. You don't get to come out and play. Whether you call them your inner children or your parts or whatever it is. For me, the idea of healing has been going back and speaking to those different parts. Why were you feeling angry, darling? What were you trying to show me? How were you trying to keep me safe? Because every emotion that we have is to tell us, yes, I want more of this, or actually, I want less of this. It's just energy going through, yes, this is my sole purpose. This lights me up. This is exciting. I want more of this. The negative emotions, I want less of this. This does not feel good for my body. And a lot of people are afraid of being in their body because we've been taught not to trust it, not to trust the emotions we're feeling, not to trust our instincts, not to trust our intuition and our insight and the wisdom that we gain from other realms. So again, we're trying to lock all that in a box as well. So
So no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no. I just needed to cough. Apologies. I've got a bit of a
I
tickly
know,
throat this
I know.
morning.
I had to call too. I had to put you on solo, and I had to call. But and I keep thinking about um, we can explain and we can show our clients and we can show the audience what these different mental states or brainwave states to you. The signals that you get. I was reading a book called Soul Speak by Julia Cannon, and she was talking about cancer, inward anger. And the way she found that information out was through Dolores Cannon.
Mm.
She's yes, Julia
Yes, I
Cannon is
love
her
Julia.
daughter. So
Yes,
what
I
they
felt as
did
soon as you
was,
said, I was like, oh,
yeah,
yeah.
so they cataloged all of the responses they got over the years of different illnesses that they would come in contact with while the client is in somnambulistic state, in the quantum healing phase. And when the higher self or the subconscious mind would speak, Dolores was like, why is she dealing with cancer? Is there anything we do? She's angry. Or she would get, there's a lot of hate around her. They started to categorize all these illnesses, and they would say that they are messages to remind you. So I'm so glad that we talked about that. And all of this is in the realms of spirituality.
Mm, yeah.
All of it is. And I know that you're huge and you're big on spirituality. And we're gonna get to your book in a minute though. But what is spirituality in your words?
So it's interesting. Spirituality was one of those things that I denied for a very long time.
Mhm.
I was born into a religious family. So
Mhm.
we were taught that
Me
the
too.
church was religion,
Yeah.
and that the church and religion were spirituality. And anything outside of that doctrine and dogma and story that was being spread there was not spirituality. That was the occult, and that was dark, and that was, the devil's work and all of this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So it was quite, but I would see people go into church and be holier than thou. And I used to love actually being in church because people would leave their crappy self at the door. And when they're singing and, the incense, any of that kind of stuff, like, I would feel it. It would be a visceral experience for me of the highest vibration of human experience. Like I could really feel God in those moments. But then people would walk out the front, pick up their asshole self, and they'd be what they were before they came in. There was no transformation. There was no change. Some of the most racist, homophobic, intolerant people didn't change because they were learning Jesus's message. And think about Jesus. He sat with the women. He sat with the lepers. He sat with the ill. He was a teacher of love. And all these people that take this message and they twist it around and then they, use it to justify some of their isms, whatever you want to call it, it just felt really wrong to me. So anyway, I distanced myself a bit from it. And then I got a bit interested in astrology and the tarot in my late teens. And I was really interested because it was always really resonating with me. And there was just these extra things I wanted to dive into. But again, that's not what people like us did. And so I denied it and suppressed it again. And then when I had children, it sort of started coming up again. And I remember when I lost my baby, that morning, I was like, I have to go to church. I just have to go to church. And I had to sit in this empty church and literally just pray. And so there was just all this stuff that started coming through. And then I was like, no, that's not what people like us do. And it really was as my marriage was falling apart and as I was starting to go, you know what, everything I've been told and taught and almost forced to live by has failed me. I was in a massive crisis of consciousness. I did not know who I was. I felt so broken. I was wondering if it was even worth me being on this plane. Like I was in that way of going, what is the point of life?
Yes.
And all of this other stuff came up. Spirituality was coming from inside me all of a sudden. It wasn't something I had to attain out there. And that's now what I recognize. My true spirituality is my connection to the divine, not just the divine creator of the universe, infinite wisdom, source, whatever name you want to give it, God, goddess, the divinity of the earth, the divinity of Mother Earth, the divinity within myself. Let's face it, God, higher self, archangels, our spirit guides, all of that. Where does, the air in the dining room end and the air in the lounge room begin? Like we're all part of that oneness.
Christ consciousness.
And we're just an individual expression of it, a unique expression of it. And that's where I now go with my spirituality. I can see the spirit and the love and the purity in even those who abused me the worst. And I can hold love for them alongside a non-condoning of their behavior. That's spirituality for me.
And that's spirituality. And I love the way you took your time and you expressed it in great detail, but with such grace. And when I think of spirituality, it is just what you said. The connection to consciousness, the connection to Christ consciousness, the connection to something higher than myself. A lot of meditation, a lot of different breathing techniques. Look at religion is, not quite like that. It's more prayer. It's more structure. It's more stand up, sit down, read the hymnal. It's just more routine. Not there's some negative spin on it, but it's more routine, and spirituality is just more within. It's more focused on within, and all the answers are there. Christ consciousness, source, whatever you want to call it, higher self, like you said, subconscious mind. it's all there, and I just love the
Yeah.
topic. But another thing that I really,
Mm.
really love um, is the fact that you wrote this book, and we have to talk about it right now. See, here we go. Divine, Messy, Human, a spiritual guide to prioritizing internal truth over external influence. Amanda, Kate, you have the floor. Tell us about this wonderful book.
Well, this is really a culmination of all those years of work. It was, people say that, it takes you 5 years or whatever it is to write a book. And it was in my subconscious for that long. But I worked with a coach, and all of a sudden they created a container for me to get the book out of my head. And it literally was 5 weeks from typing my first words to handing it to my editor. And it was 120 days from typing my first words to holding the physical copy in my hands,
All
which
right.
blew my mind, absolutely blew my mind. And the writing of it, I know I couldn't do before that point, because I needed to get to a place where I was healed enough that there was no blame or guilt or finger pointing or projection onto those people who harmed me and hurt me. There was love and acceptance for who they were, for the path they were walking, for the lessons that they have to learn in this lifetime. And then when it did come out, I mean, a lot of it I was reading back through the editing process, and I know some parts of it were completely and utterly channeled, not me at all. And it really is how I moved from that self-loathing. I would have gone as far as self-hatred, to truly loving myself at a really deep level. And these are some of those tools and techniques that I use to get there, but also some of the psychology, some of the theory behind it as well. Because people want to put spirituality, kinesiology, alternative therapies into this woo-woo category. And actually, it's not woo-woo at all. Spirituality and science, for me, are ridiculously closely linked. It is very
I
much
agree.
about asking questions. And if both ask the right questions, they come up with more and more questions to ask, more theories to test, more hypotheses to investigate. And so for me, the reason I put some of that more concrete stuff in there was to really highlight the fact that although people want to dismiss it as woo-woo, it's really very psychology based. It is very body based. It's really grounded. And what you were saying before about, the quantum consciousness and all of that, I see a lot of healers walking around and they're just up in these top chakras. They're not coming down and grounding. For me, the best work I do is when I am firmly anchored to Mother Earth, which is where I'm choosing to have this lifetime. And then I firmly anchor into
Love your
her,
conversation. Go ahead.
and then I can go higher. But I
Yes.
need to anchor into this. I mean, all great. 5D awareness, consciousness, all of that's fun to play in. But if we're not anchored into this 3D reality, then we're living in delusion and denial. And I think the more we anchor in, the better the work we are bringing through us, because this is the plane we need to help. This is the plane we need to improve, and that we need to really work on to make the world a better place.
And grounding is really, really important. Yeah, I was telling my spiritual teacher to imagine the nutrients and the roots from the earth moving through the bottom of your feet,
Mm.
supplying energy and light through your body. And so that's how I was taught to originally ground myself before I went into any modality. And I absolutely agree with you. But Amanda, one thing that you said that really caught my attention, and you
Yeah.
were speaking of someone you had a prior relationship with, that
Mhm.
it was over, and whatever or however the hurt happened to you, the way you view him now is, hey, that was an experience for both of us.
Yeah.
And I don't look at you as that person anymore, but it was an experience. And maybe we're not together. However, I'm aware, but I don't feel it because I know it was an experience. I'm grounded in reality. That was really significant. I teach that very concept that you were talking about, maybe not in the same words, but that concept. If when a person is trying to expand their consciousness and they're trying to elevate vibration, a part of it is recognizing hurt or recognizing pain, but not actually living in it.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought that point up. And I just wanted to reiterate that.
Yeah. And look,
Yes,
it takes a lot of work to get to that point. You know, there was
it
a
does.
lot of tears and, you know, tissues and very ugly crying and all the rest of it. But, you know, I think that the interesting thing is you can't get to that place of grace
Mhm. Right,
and love when you're in the messy middle of it.
right.
And you don't want to be told this is happening, you know, for you, not to you, when you're in it, because nothing wants to make you get more violent with somebody and punch them in the nose than them going, but life is happening for you, not to you, when you're in the middle of it. Now, having healed from that, I can honestly go, oh, it was so happening for me. There was so many gifts and everything in there. But I needed to do a certain amount of work and have enough distance between myself and those memories of what happened to be able to get to that point. And I
I,
think often what happens is people want to spiritually bypass and rush through that process rather than really dive deep and truly heal it at a cellular level to get to that point.
I was gonna say I love the fact that your story and things that you had to go through and the focus and the attention to healing yourself and allowing how others is a testament. But there are probably women all over the world, certainly within your sphere influence, that you serve that understand the guidance and the coaching you can give. So let's talk about how people can contact you and what exactly you're offering in your coaching, your speaking, your books. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, so I can be found at amandakate.com.au. Pardon me.
That's okay.
And again, I work with people one-on-one mostly because I do such deep trauma-informed work that, to be honest, I've worked with too many people who have gone into big group healings and have had these energetic containers not closed up properly. So I'm very aware that with the work that I do in the depth of it, one-on-one is the way that I work best. What I am wanting to do, however, is get on stage more so that I can bring the message of what we're doing and then be able to work with people one-on-one. Pardon me. So give them the theory behind all of that kind of stuff. And then just introduce them to what the work is. I
Right.
remember getting a phone call from somebody at one point going, so what is the work? And I was like, all
Right.
those books that you read, all the personal development ones, you actually need to do the things in the books. And they were like, oh, okay. And it made me laugh
And
because that should be a relatively, I guess, interesting step, but it wasn't necessarily. So, yeah.
and you have also the anxiety relief handbook as
Hmm.
well. Let's tell the audience what that's about. We know what relief of anxiety is, but how can it help? What particular in this book can help them improve themselves and so they can stop worrying so much, Amanda?
Well, it's interesting. That book was actually released, I think it was 2021, and it was just after, obviously, we'd had some pretty severe lockdowns here in Melbourne. And so anxiety
Mhm.
was going through the roof. And so this lady that I was connected with got a whole heap of different professionals together to write this book. And so there are life coaches and
I love it.
hypnotherapists and family constellation people, like all sorts. included in the book from a lot of different modalities. I think there were 11 different modalities included. So not just showing, I guess, the traditional cures or treatments for anxiety, but also what else is there. So we had a nurse and we had a psychologist, and I think there were 11 professionals in total that all contributed a chapter. So it's one of those multi-author books.
That's cool. Okay, so we have to check out Amanda at Divine Messy Human. Purchase her book, Divine Messy Human. And if you're looking to, understand yourself and understand spirituality, and just working through what your intuition is, what it could be, how can you use it, get Amanda's book and call her, and go to her website, I'm Messy Human, or if you want to really contact her directly, go to amandakate.com.au, amandakate.com.au. So we talked about intuition, and we've been playing with that word for a while. We know that intuition starts with finding yourself from within, so that you can hear the messages, so that you can reconnect with your emotions, enables you to feel and to anticipate much better when the ego and when the conscious mind isn't as a bigger part of your thought process, and allowing the subconscious mind to be more present, and intuition is much easier. So can we use it to improve our life? How will we do that?
Oh, absolutely. If you think about it, almost everything that's happened to us, whether it be good or bad, we've had a feeling about. So the
Yes.
reason we ask ourselves, oh, I'm really not enjoying work, maybe I should find another job. Depending on how we feel that in the body, often we know the answer. We know that job's not right for us. And that's our intuition saying, I think it's time for you to find something else. But then we bring in the logical mind and we go, yeah, but I need a paycheck and I've got this and I've got this, and maybe it's not. And then we survey monkey everyone around us and check in. And the same with a relationship. Oh, I don't know how much longer we'll be together, but you know what? It's kind of okay. And maybe I'm overthinking it. Maybe I'm overanalyzing. But often when we get that feeling, there's a reason. Our intuition is giving us a little hint of, is this really what you want? Mm-hmm. And when we listen to it, I wish I'd listened to my intuition so much sooner. I know people talk about not having regrets, but I think regrets really help inform how we move forward in the world. And I do regret not listening to my intuition. It was there all along and it was spot on every time. And I ignored it because I didn't trust myself, because I wasn't taught how to trust myself. And so I think the more we can trust our intuition, the less pain we have to go through in life. And yeah, look, there's always going to be problems. We are always going to have things that come up. But I think in terms of that devastating pain, it is so much lessened if we listen to our intuition, which is, as you say, get still, turn within, feel into where you feel it in your body.
Practice.
What does it feel like? Practice.
You got to practice.
Exactly. Yes. It's called a spiritual practice for a reason.
Yeah.
100%.
So we're running up against time. I gotta squeeze more out of you. And plus, there are so many other questions I want to speak to you about. I just love the how deep the responses are, and how much I can just see you love it. You're just not a coach that's making a financial gain. You love this, and I love that about you. But I want to ask you, what is self-care, self-love, and self-improvement so necessary, and what is it? Because I was reading a lot of your material, and you talk about self-care and self-love and self-improvement, and you believe it's necessary. What's your response to that?
Well, self-love and self-care, people often think of that commodified capitalist version of self-love and self-care. It's going and getting the massage and, going on holiday. But self-care and self-love is really about having self-loving boundaries. And, I woke up this morning, I've got a bit of a cough, feeling a little bit tired. So I was asking myself, what is the most self-loving thing to do today? Is it to clear my diary, or is it to actually do the work, because I will end up feeling better at the end of the day? Now, I'm not that bad. Could I do with an extra couple of hours sleep? Probably. So there's this, it's not always clear cut what is self-loving and what's not. Now, today, the most self-loving thing for me was to do my work, to bring it into the world. There was a day a few weeks ago where I couldn't be, and actually we were due to catch up that day as well. We had to reschedule because I had my tongue swell up. And so again, I was looking at it, say, back on that date and going, okay, I'm okay to be able to talk and to be able to do it, but am I going to be as clear? Am I going to be as succinct when my tongue's, twice the size it should be or whatever? No, that was not a yes, because I wasn't bringing my best self to the day.
Yeah.
Today, I'm feeling well enough that I know I can still access my best self. So sometimes self-loving boundaries, self-love, self-care is not the easy choice. And it's not always about, going out and spending money to have these experiences. Yeah, that's lovely. Who doesn't love a massage or a whatever it is, or a retreat? But what can I do in this moment, in this day, to treat myself with love and respect? And the more self-loving we can be, the more loving we can be towards other people. And that's not to shame people who aren't in a self-loving place, to say you're not, loving enough. But if we can look after this physical meat suit that we're taking out into the world to get through our day, if we can look after this to the best of our ability, then our life will become easier. Our relationships become easier. Everything becomes easier because we're looking after ourselves. And it's not about selfishness. It's about being self-full.
Amazing. Amanda, Kate. Amanda, can you leave the audience with one last word of advice, or maybe there's a offer you have, or the next session, or webinar, whatever it is you're doing? Maybe just speak to the audience and tell them how to reach you. But I'll give you the floor.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So again, my website is amandakate.com.au. As I said, I work mostly one-on-one. I now have my own podcast, Divine Messy Human, which I am playing with at the moment. I started it well before I was ready to, but I think that's the way that the world goes. Obviously, my book, it's available on Amazon, Kindle. And yeah, look, I offer everybody a free 20-minute call. So I always think that we need to be really careful who we are working with when it comes to our emotional, physical, mental, spiritual health. And so many people will just go to who they, that first person they get referred to, or the first person they find on Google or whatever else. But remember that you are opening yourself up. So making sure that that is the right person, that you've got a connection. So that's why I offer the free 20-minute call. And then just come follow me on socials, which are all linked to from my website, and see what I'm about. I don't care who you do the work with. I would just love more people to be doing the work so that they can spread more love and light and acceptance and generosity into the world.
And more vibration, so that we can raise this entire consciousness of the earth. And just like Dolores Cannon said, and raise it to 5D, the new 5D earth. All right, Amanda, I'm going to move you to the back. Stay there. I want to say a few more words to you. And thank you for coming. But hold on one second. Guys, she was absolutely amazing. Just like I thought. I've read material on Amanda Kate, and she was awesome. I was hoping I got her on the show, and something happened. Her health, something happened with the first date we set up. I hung in there, and Amanda did too, and I got her back. But talk about understanding how to build emotional fluency. Amanda can help you prioritize your internal truth over your internal influence, helping you discover your unique intuitive gifts. And that's something that we all do as healers, Not all, but most of us do that. I do it with my clients, but discovering the unique intuitive gift is very, very important when trying to listen to yourself when making that decision about your business or about the next decision that's going to affect your family. But Amanda Kate is that kind of teacher, that kind of spiritual leader. And I just thank you for being with us tonight here on the expansion of consciousness. And the goal is to bring you content that can help you elevate your life. I want to thank you again for also showing up on YouTube, Facebook, or Instagram to watch the show. We're also on LinkedIn. But go to YouTube, go to @expansion of conscious and subscribe and check the like button because it really helps us out a whole lot. But we're going to get out of here tonight and we want to thank you again. And we'll see you the next time. Remember, trust, relax, and discover.